Do-
You want my love, I want your heart. Just for a minute, come by and let me feel it, cause you want my love.
Hey!
Hi, everybody. Good evening. Happy Thursday.
Yeah, Steven.
Hey,
Hey,
how's it going, Pastor Garrett?
pretty good.
Yeah?
Yeah.
How's life?
It's good. We got,
I was gonna say.
that's just like automatic response. Oh, it's
Right.
great.
It's
Yeah,
great.
yeah. We got a sick baby.
Oh, sick
Yeah.
baby. Never
Sick
fun.
baby. Woke up this morning with some sort of nasty cold. So, yeah.
All right.
Yeah, which-
Baby Paul.
Yeah.
Is he
So,
in the thick of it right now?
well, I think so. I hope it doesn't get worse, but
Right.
he's handling it pretty well. He's still like his normal self.
Yeah.
He's not his normal self insofar as he has less energy.
Right, of course.
And he's more fussy than normal,
Yeah,
but he laughs all the time still.
right.
It's
Of
like
course.
he still thinks things are funny all the
Yeah.
time, and
Still
yeah.
a beautiful baby.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, just
Yeah.
with a lot of stuff coming out of his nose. So
That's awesome.
yeah. So
well, we should be praying for him, of course.
Yeah.
Pray for pray for baby Paul right now. As
Yeah.
he's fighting just a common cold, right?
yeah,
Something
that's
like that.
all we figure it is a common cold.
It's dropping. It's cold outside right now.
Yeah, it's a little chilly outside. California chilly, that is.
Yeah, exactly.
Just texting a friend in Pittsburgh the other day. I think it was like, what was it? I think it was like high 20s that morning when they woke up in Pittsburgh. So
Wow.
a little colder than here.
Yeah, that would probably feel like negative 50 to us right now.
Right,
We're
right.
Used to these 3-digit days.
Oh my goodness.
But well, definitely keep baby Paul in the
Yeah.
prayers then. My
Yeah.
gosh, that's
yeah,
tough
yeah,
to hear. But
yeah. He'll make it through.
Yeah.
Truck along
of
here,
course,
get well.
we all get.
I
through
think
it.
this is just his. I was reading, like when I found out he was sick this morning, I'm like, oh, how common is this? How do you
Right.
treat it? And they were like, oh, babies get like as many as like 7 colds their first year of life.
Oh.
And I'm like, wait a second, this is actually. He had a tiny little cold early on, like his
Right.
first, like maybe at 2 months old.
Yeah.
They just passed super quickly.
Right.
So this is his first like real cold. And I think it's partly because of the lockdown. He's just
Right.
like he's not seeing
He's not-
anyone,
he's not
and
exposed to
either are
anything.
we.
Right. So
So
yeah. Well, we'll keep him in our prayers.
yeah, thanks.
Right.
Thank you.
And he'll get well soon. Right.
Yeah.
He's got a long life of this. Of
Yeah.
being sick.
Of getting sick. That's what I thought. Yeah, he was like crying today. I was like, buddy,
It's gonna get worse.
yeah, those tears are gonna form character.
Right.
In there.
For those of you who have joined us, hello, and just always a quick reminder, if you have any questions or
Yeah.
thoughts, or go ahead, feel free to comment either on Facebook or YouTube, wherever you're watching this, and we'll get to them. We have them right in front of us, and our
Yep.
trusty man behind the desk, Will, is with us again tonight, keeping us on track.
Yeah.
So, I guess, maybe. Tired. Another great week, I guess, here at CLC. CLC at home, CLC outdoors. The rhythm is continuing.
It is.
CLC midweek.
Yep.
I'm sort of getting used to it.
Yeah.
But before we talk about changes.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, it's a good rhythm we've got going. We got those Sunday morning live streams.
Yep.
So I hope
9:30
you're
a.m.
tuning into that. We're doing Illustrating the Invisible
Yeah.
is the name of our little sermon series right now in
Right.
parables.
Right. Which have been, to me, they've been great. I
good.
love tuning in and watching
Yeah.
each week. It's so weird.
So yeah, I think we've said before that like it's interesting because we're picking up like late in the parables.
Right.
So, like there's so many parables throughout Matthew,
Right.
and we're not picking up until like this. We're really looking at the second half of them.
Right.
So
Except for next week.
except for next week when you preach,
I get to
we're going to
preach.
jump all the way back to like the first parable, which is
Right.
the one that lays the ground for all the other ones.
Right.
It's almost like we're doing like Star Wars, how they do like
Yeah.
the 3 and then they do like the prequels.
Prequels.
Yeah, you're gonna do the prequel. Right?
Yeah, I guess so. That's fun.
Yeah.
The YouTube feed is not up. Uh-oh.
Ah.
Well, will work on that. Thanks to Nook for letting us know.
Yeah.
But that stinks.
Oh,
Might
weird.
I will probably admit that probably is my fault because this week we did some changes with the YouTube channel. I moved it
Oh,
into
yeah.
a brand account, and so we could have
Oh,
privileges. So that might be messing with it right now.
Okay.
But those of you who are on Facebook, glad to have you. I think Will will probably do what he can right now, but I
Yeah.
probably can't do much in the middle of the stream, so that's going to stink.
Mm.
But we'll just keep going on.
Yeah.
Right. I'll upload this to YouTube for folks to be able to catch it there.
That sounds good. Yeah. So CLC,
yes.
we're doing
Illustrating the
series
Invisible,
on parables. You'll preach next weekend.
Next weekend I'm preaching, and we'll talk kind of. Jesus tells us why he gives parables.
Yeah.
But it's also around a parable. So
Yeah,
it's a
right.
lot. Like,
it is a lot. It's like you got to pick and choose.
I was reading it again today, and I'm like, man, there's just so much in here. It's like, do you just focus on why parables? Do you focus on really leaning into the parable? Lutherans, we only get 20 minutes for it with you, so it's like we're
You
not
go 45.
Yeah, go 45, right? So it's
and we do it on this,
right? Exactly.
Which might be why people tune out,
right? So, Illustrating the Invisible, continuing on, and again this next week. Next week. At 9:30 a.m.
9:30 a.m.
New parable.
A new parable. This is
a wedding banquet.
It's a tricky one, you know. It's about a wedding banquet. Maybe so. I know we have sermon preview kind of scheduled for later. I'll just do it now.
Oh.
Yeah, unless you want to do it later.
What do you want to do?
I'm already into it. I can't wait.
Let's do it. That's kind of how we feel tonight. We're going to talk about our survey, but let's get to...
Yeah, so the sermon, it's like... not the sermon. The passage,
right.
It's about a king who throws a wedding banquet for his son.
Right.
That's like, wow. It's God the Father having, like, it's the kingdom of heaven.
Right.
A wedding feast at which Christ is the groom.
Right.
Interestingly, it never specifies the bride.
Oh yeah, interesting. Okay,
it doesn't specify the bride, but we can infer from Scripture who the bride is. The church or the people of God are regularly referred to as the bride of Christ.
Right, absolutely. We read all throughout Scripture that.
And that I think that says something, but that'll be for later. But so he invites everyone, slaughters his oxen and his fattened calves, which like when we read that now, it's like, yeah, I'd rather not come to that.
Right. But then.
Okay.
Is I want to be there.
Yeah, right. Right. Yeah, it's like, all right.
Right. The fat calf. All right.
Yeah. So, but what's interesting, and so the king has prepared everything.
Yeah.
And it's fascinating to me that it's given, right? It's a given. It's free of charge. That people don't earn it. People don't do anything to like get into it. They're just invited.
Right.
To come feast. Right. I think it's an invitation, actually, if we want to be specific, and I don't want to get too far into the sermon, but it's an invitation to feast on grace, I would say, that begins now, right?
Right.
We're always feasting on the kindness of God and the work of God. And anyway, so it's an invitation to feast on that. And what's interesting, so it's given, but the people actually make excuses for why they don't come,
right?
And it's always because they want to do something themselves,
right? Yeah,
it's some sort of work,
right?
That's like I've got to do. Like one guy says, I've got to attend to my farm. Another guy says, I got a business that's going, you know. And so it's like you're too busy to rest and rejoice in the gifts of God,
right?
Is fascinating, and I think this is getting at something that I think we all know is true, right?
Absolutely,
that we are too busy to rest and rejoice in the gifts of God, to feed on grace and be full and satisfied.
Right.
It's weird. It's like we worry in order to or like we get restless in order to reach a place of rest, which is the stupidest thing ever, right?
Yeah.
Anyway, so we're looking at that, and then at the end, the curveball at the end, right?
Yeah.
So once everyone's in, those who have accepted the invitation, they come to feed on the grace of God. Great.
Right.
And then one guy shows up there without a wedding garment.
Yeah.
And the king kicks him out. Right. The king's like, how did you get in here without a wedding? Boom, he's out. And it's like,
right party, wrong clothes.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, I'm going to steal that.
Yeah.
It is. Yeah. And so he gets kicked out. And then Jesus says, like, there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth, right? Yeah. For many are called, but few are chosen. The end.
Yeah.
And you're like,
Right.
So the big question that I think people have discussed for a long time, what's the wedding garment?
Yeah.
That's missing.
Right.
What is it that he's not wearing?
Okay.
And
is this where you're going to leave us hanging right now?
Yeah,
I'm going to say, this seems to be where Pastor Garrett says, now you got to tune in on 9:30.
Right, because if I gave it away,
what's the wedding garment?
Yeah, what is the wedding garment? Yeah, and I think Scripture gives us answers.
Yeah.
That parable doesn't. which is fascinating because Jesus says elsewhere in Matthew 13 that you're going to be preaching on, that things come in parables in order to see who will actually stick around and keep digging.
Right.
And so he doesn't, it's ambiguous what the wedding garment is, but if you stick around the scriptures and you keep digging, you can totally see what the wedding garment is. There are answers throughout scripture, all getting at the same thing, I think. But
Right. Okay.
Anyway,
that's going to be interesting.
This weekend.
I'm excited. I'm excited to hear where you land with that and how you rope it all together. I was doing some prep for that for a while because I thought that's the parable I was preaching on. This was like 2 months ago.
Yeah.
I'm making it a little bit. And I read just a little bit. So that's great. Yeah, I'm really excited. I'm really pumped.
Oh, now I want to find out. After this camera's off, we're going to talk about what you think the wedding garment is.
Oh, no. Man, I can't go back that far at this point. One thing I do remember was interesting was like how the process of a wedding in that time and how Jesus is basically just following, right? Like that, right? Because isn't it, he sends out the invitation and then he sends out the servants to invite, right? And then there's another invitation. He sends them out in two ways. And I remember reading this fun little commentary explaining like, no, that's how it was, you know? And then roping in the farming and the business piece. Like Jesus is speaking. And this is one thing, just I think parables in general, he's speaking to the day and age, like the vernacular of his people, right? Like he's telling stories about their common day, like in their life, right? When he talks about a farmer sowing seed, well, an agricultural society, right? And he's the way he tells his parables are to the people, like they're in terms and manners and ways that they would understand. That sometimes for us, right, seem a little fattened calf.
Like fattened calf,
right? It's like
that's against my diet.
Exactly. What fat? Right. So, but wow.
But I mean, if you live in a world that's where food is scarce and people are going hungry,
right?
Rich meat.
Kill
like
the
first of all
calf,
meat, second of all rich meat. It's like, wow, this is life giving,
right?
So it's communicating something that is incredibly life giving in a world that is not life giving,
right?
So it's getting at all sorts of things.
Cool. I'm excited. This will be fun.
Yeah.
If you're not excited, I don't know. It might be sermon crunch
I still got a lot of work to do.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, that's all right.
So
cool.
Yeah. So CLC at home. That's this Sunday. CLC outdoors. Outdoors has been beautiful.
Beautiful. Yeah.
The lights that have been put up out there, just it's a great night.
Just great.
Yeah. Third graders got their Bible this past Sunday. Right. That was such a cool just moment for them.
Right.
Also for me, it was like my first chance to do it. What was funny is like I got to the point of like the parents handing them their Bibles, and I'm like, I probably should have thought of something for the parents to say. And I'm like, okay, hand them their Bible. Anyway, but it's great.
It's super cool. It's always one of those awesome things to see, especially how as parents, right? That symbol in a sense, parents handing the scriptures, going back to that baptismal covenant, right?
Right. They make a promise when they baptize, when they get their children baptized.
Yeah.
Place into their hands the Holy Scriptures, and they do it.
Right.
So
it's third grade Bible placing, but it's giving the parents the opportunity to fulfill that promise too, which is like so cool. So awesome. Third grade. And then we had CLC midweek this past week too. Continuing on with the marriage, the healthy 7 steps, right? How's that going?
Yeah, it's great. We're doing a lot of discussion right now. Like he has exercises in the book about like cultivating, I guess you could say cultivating closeness within a marriage, but also just working through exercises so that you're more in tune with each other. So you've been carving out time during the class that couples can kind of break off and just talk one-on-one.
Cool. So awesome. That's great. I know confirmation was fun this week. It was got into the second article and the Son and the Trinity, and so it's great. I saw afterwards you guys were playing basketball and like you swatted some kid. I come around the corner and like Steven just swats this kid's shot and I'm like, oh my goodness. You weren't supposed to see that.
And then you like talk trash afterwards too.
I did. Cool. Well, it was Henry Metlin, so he's like a little brother.
Fair game.
So it's Henry, and his dad actually, Ryan, has. We've talked lots about us all going to the park and playing basketball. And like teaching each other how to play and seeing who's got game. So there's a little bit of a rivalry there. RM and Henry. So, and we always go at it during March Madness about who has the better bracket. So I just had to put Henry in his place while I was going up for that layup. Get out of here.
Yeah, what's funny is he'll probably be like taller than you in a couple of years, maybe. It's like
he's almost there. Actually, this Wednesday, I forget who it was. It might have been Esther. Esther came up to me this Wednesday and said, "Henry's almost taller than you."
See, everyone's onto it.
I know. Well, I'm short. This is how tall I was in 8th grade, and I just stopped. I was
tall in 8th grade.
I was.
Yeah.
Imagine me playing basketball in 8th grade.
5'11"?
No, I'm 5'10".
5'10"?
So
Okay.
I've grown maybe 2 inches. I think I was like 5'8" in 8th grade.
Okay.
Then it just stopped.
Yeah.
5'10". So
it happens.
Yeah. Whatever.
I had a friend who had a mustache and was like 5'11" in 5th grade or something.
Right.
I was like, oh my goodness.
Right. Those man boys. So.
Yeah.
All right. Should we move to the topic of the evening?
The worship survey.
Yeah, our worship survey. Our second one that we just did. We
Yeah.
had a great turnout.
We did.
Yeah.
Yeah, we just checked actually 145 responses to it.
Right.
So that's a great turnout. And what's funny is for the most part, I would say there were consistent answers throughout, right?
Yeah. Yeah, lots of consistency.
A lot of consistency. The divide being between whether we came, I think 2 is whether we came in June. So like some of you came in June, some of you didn't feel comfortable coming in June when we were meeting in person.
Right.
And then also whether we're coming to CLC Outdoors.
Right.
Although I think a good chunk of people actually have been coming to CLC Outdoors. Maybe you have it in front of you.
I remember that. I can
but a good number of people are coming to CLC Outdoors, which is great to see.
Mm-hmm.
As we were going through that, one of the things that we were looking at is what we do with CLC Outdoors once it's over.
Right. That's the big question.
So CLC Outdoors is scheduled through. It was scheduled through November 1st.
Right. Being the last CLC Outdoors for what we have planned, November 1st.
And so the more we looked at that, the time changes October 31st.
Yeah.
And so like November 1st, this can be pitch black, right? It's
very
like,
dark. Right.
So we've decided, and we'll send out more information about this too, but that November 1st, we're not going to have CLC Outdoors. Our last one will actually be October 25th.
Okay.
Instead, the week before on Reformation Sunday.
Awesome. Cool.
And then on November 1st, we'll go back to Sunday morning services. And they're kind of like 2 different ways we could go with that. One is if we can be back in the sanctuary.
Yeah, that'd
be
awesome.
If the numbers drop down to below 7 cases per 1,000 and we hold that for 14 days, we'll just go back to the sanctuary.
Yep.
Which
that's Sunday, right?
They flipped back up just a tiny bit this past week.
Just went from 7.3 last week to 7.4, 10th. So the week before it jumped by 0.3, right? Mm-hmm. So that's good. At least it's not jumping 0.3, 4/10, right?
Right.
It's only 1, so hopefully this next Tuesday we see it maybe crescendo or at least hold, right? We don't want it to go up.
Yeah.
So it's just
somewhere like 9.
Right. Just pray that it holds. But just a little bit, not too much this week.
Yeah. So we're trending. I know that there's a little bit of a blip up, but it seems like we're kind of hovering. We're not wildly going up.
Yeah, we're not seeing huge spikes.
And
there's also been, I don't know, I've been confused about it. I don't know if you've heard, there seems to be there might be changes as well with how maybe certain cities like Santa Clarita, places that, I don't know. I've heard this from different people. I have to look it up. I'm not trying to spread disinformation.
Yeah.
But that even there was some announcements that things might change in the methodology of how places might sell. So that's a factor as well. They might actually loosen up on something.
Yeah, I saw that the city council passed a measure or not a measure, but a motion to explore creating their own health department.
Right, I saw that too.
Which would be fascinating, right? Because we are different numerically in this whole situation from LA County,
right?
But we're lumped in with LA County,
right?
And so I do think it'll be interesting to see what comes of that. Granted, that will take such a long period of time to establish a Santa Clarita Public Health Board. Right. I don't even know what you would call it, but
how would that go?
Yeah. Anyway, so if we can be back in the sanctuary, we'll go back in the sanctuary.
We'll be in the sanctuary. And what will we be when we go back to the sanctuary? Would it be the 8 o'clock, 9:30, 11 o'clock?
Yep, 8, 9:30, 11, just like we did in June. Same protocol.
Right.
And based on the survey, a ton of you felt comfortable with that. The vast majority felt comfortable with that. So we'll just go back to that.
Right.
And then inching towards, the next step would be fewer restrictions on that.
Right.
I think like tier 3. The tier 2 would be what we were doing in June.
Right.
That's what we're looking towards next. So
tier 2. Yeah.
Right.
I know.
So if we're not back in the sanctuary, that's the bigger thing, right? That's the more uncertain.
If everything how it is right now, and it was November 1st, what does that look like?
Yeah. So what we'll do is we'll take the live stream because we want to have Sunday morning in-person outdoors if we can't be in-person in the sanctuary.
Right.
And the live stream outdoors, it just doesn't work.
Right.
It just doesn't work.
Technically, it's really difficult to do and pull off, right?
Yeah.
Audio, you have birds, you have cars, you have neighbors.
Yeah.
All sorts
I've
of
even
things.
watched like Grace Baptist do their live stream from their amphitheater, and that's a much more controlled setting than what we have in the parking lot. Even that, they have a hard time pulling that off.
Right.
I admire them for trying it, but man, it's difficult.
Right.
And not only it's not even the piece about it being difficult; it doesn't come through clearly.
Right.
For the most part, I just think it's a little bit distracting, and it's better done. Just have the live stream from the sanctuary.
Okay. Yep.
So we'll do that, but in order to create a Sunday morning service outdoors, we need to push the live stream earlier. So 8:30 is when we're going to do it in the sanctuary. We'll live stream at 8:30.
I'm not on the preaching schedule after November 1st, right?
8:30 live stream.
Okay.
Steven Neaton preaching that first weekend.
I mean, 8 a.m. service. There's that, but it's just been a while.
Yeah, right. What's funny is we thought about even going earlier. So
yeah, that's true. We've talked about that.
I think we threw around even as early as 7 was the
7
earliest time we had out on on the option
Yeah.
list.
And the reason being that we feel comfortable with doing it so early is because once we do it, it's there.
It's available.
If at 9:30 you want to live stream, like watch the service,
Right.
you can just go do that.
That was precisely why we asked the question in the survey. If you saw it, do you think it's important to have the live stream live exactly at 9:30?
Yeah.
Or if we moved it earlier, would it not matter to you? Like maybe you would get up earlier, maybe you would just watch it later anyway. Right. It doesn't matter.
Right.
The vast majority of people said it didn't matter if you pushed it earlier. So that's the direction we're going to go, and it creates a stronger setup for later because we'll do an outdoor service. And I think we said in the survey that we would do 2 outdoor services.
Right.
The more we talked with our teams about that logistically with like sound and transferring equipment and things like that, it was like, yeah, that's not feasible.
It's a lot.
It's
a lot.
So we're going to start with 1 outdoor service out there at 10 a.m. And so I hope you can make it to that. Like if you don't, and there'll be complete services, right? Unlike CLC Outdoors where we're not having a sermon, the 10 o'clock outdoors on Sunday morning, what we're calling CLC Together, that would have full service, communion, sermon.
It looked like the live stream for the most part, right? It's just outside.
Yep. Yeah. So,
but 1 service.
Exactly.
Cool.
Exactly. At 10 a.m. And we actually have capacity out there for about close to probably like between 250, 275, somewhere around there comfortably. And if we pack it out and we're like, oh, we need to create another service, that's a great problem to have.
Yeah, we're okay with that.
And that's when we go to the 7 a.m. live stream.
Right. That's when we go to 7
8:30, 10 in the park, and 10 in the parking lot, right?
Yeah.
So
that'll be fun.
Yeah. So the reason 10 o'clock, I should mention too, that's based on the survey. Vast majority of people, that's a convenient time for a lot of folks. Is that we put out 3 different times. One was like early as possible. One was mid-morning around like 9 o'clock, or late morning around 10:30. Almost everyone kind of skewed. Not everyone. There was a good chunk at 8. Like at 8 o'clock would be great.
Right.
But more heavily we skewed towards the 9,
mid-morning.
10:30, mid-morning.
Yep.
So we're doing 10, 8:30 live stream. I think that's a strong setup.
Right.
And pretty simple.
Right.
In the interim.
Yeah.
Right. This isn't long term. We're going to always do 8:30, 10, like 8:30 live stream, 10 in the No.
Right. November 1st, let's say November 1st, we're outdoors, we're doing it, right?
Yeah.
Doing exactly that. The outdoor, it's not CLC Outdoors. CLC Outdoors is what happens in the evening.
At night, right.
At night. Say November 1st, we're there. We're worshiping outdoors, but then let's say what would it be? November 3rd, that would be a Tuesday. All of a sudden it goes below 7. 14 days from then, like that Sunday that we're 14 days out, we don't stay outdoors.
Right.
No, we go right inside.
We go right back to the sanctuary at 8, 9:30, 11. So just waiting for that to happen. But in the meantime, starting November 1st, 8:30 live stream, 10 o'clock outdoors. Hope you can make it. If you feel comfortable coming to the parking lot for 10 o'clock worship,
Yeah. Would people be bringing their own chairs?
Yeah, it's a good point.
Just
bring your own chairs if you want. If you want wine for communion, which I really encourage that. I know grape juice is super simple.
Right.
It's really more historically accurate, I guess you could say, and I think symbolically true. Yeah. If I can use that phrase, to use wine. Now, it's no knock against grape juice. Yeah. But it was wine, and wine typically throughout Scripture is symbolic of something that's even more than grape juice. It's something beautiful that is usually meant to be offered to the Lord. Right. That He offers to us. Right. In the New Covenant, which is fascinating. Like the Old Testament, they're like, "You're offering me sour grapes." Yeah. So He's just like, "That's fine. I'm just going to give you good wine." Right. Right. Great.
And it's California. We have good wine.
Yeah. Thanks.
So we ask what year, what vineyard,
man. Yeah, Sutter Home from Sunrise.
Yeah, that's more of my type of wine if I drink it.
So, but bring your chair. Yep. I would say actually bring a blanket. Some of those mornings might be chilly. You're welcome to get cozy with the blanket.
November.
Wine if you'd like to bring that. We'll have communion set up at the welcome tables if you don't.
Kind of just like outdoors, right?
Yep. Exact same setup. Yeah. But we're calling that CLC Together. Sunday Morning Ministries, CLC Together. Mm-hmm. And so the big key that goes with that, and I hope parents you're hearing this, so at 10 o'clock we'll also have a children's Sunday school. Right. Back in the fellowship yard, we're planning a children's Sunday school. So just mark your calendars for that. It's November 1st. We'll have children's Sunday school come back, meeting outdoors. So they can be distant, just like we're doing on Wednesday night. Right. It's great fun. So yeah.
So that's a big, exciting addition. A Sunday morning children's program coming back. Yep. Another sign of normalcy, right? Right. Coming back to something new.
Yeah, we'll definitely send out a reminder of the times and dates, Daniel. So probably, I think e-news is already prepped to go out for this week. Yeah. So you can look for next week's e-news. We'll send out the information. We'll also update the website. And
social media.
We'll be blasted.
Yeah, we'll make sure. Any questions you might have? If we're not answering everything for you right now, please, great time to ask. Yeah. So that sounds exciting to me. It sounds like it's a good plan. We've talked about it a lot. And,
we have talked about it a lot.
We have. It's been a lot of planning. Just a lot of trying to figure out, maneuvering different things. And what will fit best, weather, lighting, all this great stuff.
Yeah, given all the options that we considered, that's the best one. Yeah. I know that. I don't doubt it. And then once we can, the best option is to be back in the sanctuary.
Absolutely.
We can gather in there. It's just,
Of course.
Yeah. If nothing else, I mean, I think worshiping outdoors is beautiful and can be like a different kind of experience. Yeah. But a sanctuary is a regular place. Mm-hmm. They're architecturally designed, right? To intentionally draw our attention towards the Lord. Right. You even see it in our sanctuary, right? All the pews are kind of centered on the altar. Right. And even like the pulpit kind of points towards the altar. So like even the message is meant to point you towards communion and the grace of God. And anyway.
You walk through the baptismal font, right? Coming into the life of the church through baptism.
So all these things that are super intentional. Yeah. And that's what makes a sanctuary such a helpful place for worship. It just centers your mind.
Right. Well, one thing
it can center your mind.
Right, it can if you know.
Or it can be scatterbrained.
If you can, right? If you know about it, though. Mm-hmm. And so that's one thing. I know we've talked about a lot. It's about teaching those things, right? Yeah. Like some of those symbols of what the sanctuary might be, or the liturgy, right? Yeah. Those things have been lost to a certain degree with some younger generations. I feel
right.
What's that?
I grew up clueless.
Right, exactly. Like, but it's all so intentional. Yeah, it's all so intentional, and it's put there on purpose, and it's resembling different biblical, you have tabernacle, and there's different things. So, sanctuary is the place. Yeah, it is the place. We've got some good questions here.
Yeah, Sunday school at the same time as 10 a.m. outdoor. Yes. Same time. So Nancy, the answer is yes. So Sunday school at 10 a.m. outdoor service starting November 1st. Right. And Ryan, yes, First Communion will still be on November 1st at 10 a.m. At 10 a.m. outdoors. So
Nanook, we will see you this Sunday.
Yeah.
If you can be there, I hope so.
Yeah. So we're set up for that. I think the other big piece that came out was like the freewheeling comments, or just like the open comments.
Share any thoughts.
Yeah, share any thoughts. Yes. And it was so many of you, not I would say like majority, but a good a good common theme, I would say. One of them was about worship music.
Yeah.
And
Lots.
so, yeah, and it was so funny. Worship music, order of service, and I think those are coming. Maybe you can correct me if I'm wrong. But we're only doing one service.
Right. Right.
So it's like we don't have the typical 8, 9, 30, 11. And even when we did 8, 9, 30, 11 in the sanctuary in June,
right.
They were different.
Right.
Because of, for a number of reasons,
Yeah.
They were different. But that's not meant to be the long-term look of what we're doing worship-wise, right?
Right.
But the comments were, it was so funny. You've seen them too. Like when you read the comments, a lot of your comments either veered one way or the other, right? It was, and this is what's so funny about it, having the 8, 9, 30, 11 services. A lot of people would say, a lot of you said, I wish we had more of like the 8 a.m. service.
Right.
In our service. Like hymns, liturgy,
tradition.
I missed the confession.
The confession.
Which the confession is not so much an 8 o'clock thing as it is an every service thing in my mind. Just no matter what. But yeah, just that, I think what that's getting at is an orientation towards the traditional liturgical service from the Green Hymnal, right?
Right.
But then on the other hand, in the same comment section, right? But other folks commenting, some of you said, I really wish we were singing more like Hillsong, Bethel, those types of music, which are super like, I guess you could call it contemporary, but they're like newer songs that are being produced or created and produced right now. So it's just so funny, right? Between the two, it's like we got one service.
Right. There, one service. And obviously not every constituency can be met with what we're with what we are doing.
Yeah. So I've long thought about it's funny, I'll say my view of worship is...
Yes, this is what I was going to actually ask you. Let's talk about then what worship is, right? As a Lutheran church.
Yeah, it's like you do want... I'm thinking of like the formula of Concord, right? They talk about... they're really talking about, in one section, about worship styles, essentially.
Right.
They're talking about how like the language used to be Latin and the Mass always had to be uniform throughout all of the Roman Catholic Church. Like no matter where you went... The Mass was the same. There was no variation, no matter what culture you were in. It was a Roman Mass, right? You could be in like Peru and there'd be a Roman Mass in Latin, and people are just like, we have no idea what we're saying. And so part of the Lutheran movement was like, no, the point of the Mass isn't just to be there as a sacrifice to God. The point of the Mass is for God to make that sacrifice to you and to speak into your life, right? And so it needs to be in the language of the people, because if it's going to be edifying. And you even think about the book of Acts at Pentecost, the pouring out of the Holy Spirit, what did they do? They spoke in the people's language. And it's like, how did we miss that for such a long period of time? But so there's something that's a Lutheran emphasis that our Mass, including our songs, our liturgy, needs to be in the language of the people. And I think it will be like, well,
don't do German.
Then it's in English, right? Well, yeah, but sometimes even our English hymns aren't in the language of the people, and we don't know what we're singing. So I say that because I think with songs, you want them to be something that we can sing. It's that simple, right? We want to be able to sing, and we want to be able to know what we're singing. That's, I think, the first emphasis.
So we want to know what we're singing.
We want to actually be able to connect with the song and just worship. I think the best worship is where, I guess, like, the worship leaders, the pastor, the musicians, even the song itself, everything just kind of like, you don't even notice it. And you're just worshiping the Lord.
You're a part of it.
Yeah, that's the goal. So know that that's the goal, right? That's what we're aiming towards. We want to do it in a way that it's actually, we're connecting with the Lord, not just like conscious about each other. We want to actually be able to just worship. So in the language of the people, theologically true.
That's huge. It's going to be a big
That's kind of important. I remember Matt Chandler, he used this example. He's like, talking about theologically true worship music. And he's like, I want you to imagine, his wife's name is Lauren Chandler. And he's like, if I gave flowers to Lauren and I wrote the note like, oh, babe, I just love your brown hair and your green eyes. And he's just sitting there. He's like, if you know my wife, she's got blonde hair and blue eyes. And he's like, she would not say when she got that note, well, at least he was sincere.
Right,
like, no,
right,
it's not about the sincerity. It's actually about, I mean, don't get me wrong, it needs to be sincere. But it also needs to be theologically accurate, true. Because the Lord is glorious.
Right. And
we need to actually know what that glory consists of.
Right.
So we want the songs to be accurate.
Right,
sure. Too. Oh man, I could just go on. You don't want to hear this, but
that's fine.
But then, so is there a way? I've long thought, and actually, a lot of churches have gotten way past this, right?
Right.
That the whole breakdown of traditional versus contemporary, like the worship wars, as I think is what they called it in the 90s, right?
Yeah, of course.
Healthy, growing churches aren't fighting those.
Right.
It's just like you just.
Right.
And so they just have worship, right?
Right.
And so how do we create a service where this is the tricky part, right?
Right.
Because what some churches will do is their way of creating, like getting past it, is just saying, we're just having a contemporary service, right? And that's all we're doing. And it's like, well, no.
Yeah.
Because
I was going to say, why? Why no? Why not just...
Yeah. So the Lutheran movement, and the Reformation did not see itself as something new.
Exactly. Yeah.
It actually saw itself as something in continuity with the past.
Right.
And so how do we communicate that even subtly with our worship, right?
Right.
That we are in continuity with the church all the way back to the apostles. And we've inherited traditions and we've inherited things. I mean, so for instance, like the Apostles' Creed, saying at the service, the Lord's Prayer, having a confession. These are all things that are in continuity with the tradition.
Right.
And so we don't just go like, we're just going to get rid of it all and have a contemporary. No.
Right.
But how do we create something that's neither traditional? By traditional, I mean like in the language of hymns written in the 1600s. Mm-hmm. But also, nor is it just like purely contemporary in the sense of just like brand new, has no rootedness in the past.
Right. Like 4 songs, a TED Talk. It's like a concert, a TED Talk.
Yeah, right.
Bye-bye.
A TED Talk with Jesus.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, so how do we create that, right? That's the vision, is to create something that's
reflecting our historical
rootedness.
Yeah, rootedness.
Yeah, we are rooted in a tradition, but not. So how do we create something that transcends the categories of traditional, contemporary? That actually, the goal of which, and I think this is beautiful when you do this well.
Right.
Is you have people who are of previous generations, and you have people of like younger generations now, able to worship side by side. They don't feel like they're shuffled in or funneled into different services. Nor are they actually given different services based on their preference or taste.
Right.
But rather you just come to worship.
Right.
And worship is so beautiful that you don't even think about, is this traditional? Is this contemporary? I want to go to the tradition. You don't even think about it, right? We're just like, I'm going to worship. It's Sunday morning.
Right.
And that's our only mindset. But the key is doing it in a way that, again, honors the tradition and is fresh.
Right.
Right?
Right.
So that's the vision. The question is like getting there. How do we get there? And I always think as an example of that vision, I mentioned to you before, Parkside Church.
Yeah.
It's out in Cleveland. Alistair Begg is the pastor there. If you listen to Truth for Life. And
he's awesome.
So they're Baptist. So they're not going to have like the same things that we have. But I've been to their services before when I was at like a pastor's conference. And what they do is they have this historical rootedness insofar as they're singing hymns from very early on in the church.
Right.
Especially like early American hymns.
Yeah.
Like there are a lot of beautiful hymns that were written in early America that are just, it's part of our tradition too, even though we're not just Lutheran Christians, we're also American Christians.
Right.
And so they're singing these traditional hymns and singing also new hymns and the instrument.
There's hymns being written today too.
Right. Like I'm thinking of Keith and Kristen Getty. If you're not familiar with them, like if you YouTube Keith and Kristen Getty, they write new hymns.
They're writing hymns
beautiful and they hit all those points of like in the language of the people, theologically deep and true. Anyway, rooted in the tradition.
Yep.
I don't know where I was going. Sorry. So the church. You go to that church and if you left there, you go and worship and it's like they have a guitar, but they also have a cellist, they have a pianist. They don't have an organ, but I think that's kind of just who they are, right?
Right.
But it could be easily incorporated into that.
Of course.
But they have this variety of instrumentation.
Right.
With with songs that like if you left there and someone was like, "Oh, is it traditional or contemporary?" People would just be like,
defy the categories.
We just worshiped.
Yeah.
Like,
we want to defy
that's
the
goal. We want to
yeah.
leave and be like, was it traditional? I just worship.
Right.
But again, that's got to be done well.
Yeah, absolutely.
And like, so.
But the point then also, like what I would say, right, is if it has to be done well,
mm-hmm.
and the only way to maybe do it well is to focus on doing something like in unity.
Right.
So when you have
mm-hmm.
The traditional, the blended, and the contemporary service, essentially what you're doing is 3 different things within
mm-hmm.
3 hours.
Yeah.
With 3 different, like all different cooks in the kitchen, and right.
Yeah.
And so how do you do that really well, or how do you go to a deeper level with that deep work? I guess you could say, right?
So,
or the adage, one thing I like: the less you do, the more you can do. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Focus on 3 things, you can go deeper than 10 things.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. So almost, trying to do something like that well requires unifying and pairing it, or defining that this is worship.
Yeah, yeah.
Right.
What's so funny is it reminds me of something that Christy has said about restaurants.
Okay, yeah.
Sometimes we'll eat at a restaurant. We get like a menu that has like 125 items on it. Ooh. She always, and I never picked up on this myself. I just be there and be like, I've got a lot of options. Great.
Yeah. She's usually covering up stuff.
Yeah. She always says like, she's like, wow, if there's so many options, I feel like they're not going to do anything great,
Except for egg plantation. They have like 100.
Yeah, actually, that's true. But it's omelets. It's one thing.
That's true.
It's one thing.
That's the one place that always like defies that for me. I go, look at all these omelets.
Yeah.
They do it all
delicious.
well.
Yeah. But yeah, so, and you look at like great restaurants have usually a pared down menu that they do with excellence, right?
Right.
I've seen a lot of great churches.
Mm-hmm.
And I actually think CLC is a great church.
Absolutely.
I'm not saying that we're not.
Right, absolutely.
I'm thinking of worship styles, though, that what we do is we pour into creating a service that is worship with no worry about categories or even, I know this is hard, but like no worry about personal preferences.
Right.
That we come and don't get me wrong, if we sing a song that's like theologically inaccurate and untrue, be like, what are we singing right now?
Absolutely.
But if it's just a song that's just like, I don't love that instrumentation, but hey, it's still worship.
Right.
I'm just going to belt it out. Because ultimately, worship is singing to the Lord.
Right.
It's actually, I remember St. Augustine had a quote, he said, singing is for lovers.
Yeah.
Is in regards to worship.
Yeah.
That like, if you think, and actually you listen to the radio, right? It's love, a lot of songs just love songs.
Right.
And that's what they're really intended to be. There's meant to be expressions and also cultivations of affections for the Lord. And we're singing to God. He is present in the room. Right. I always try to remind confirmation kids when we try to do worship, they're so self-conscious. Like,
oh, yeah.
Oh, my goodness.
I mean, I'm self-conscious.
Right. But it's like we're singing to God. It's just like, who cares?
Right.
Like, yeah. So anyway, I don't know. I'm scattered all over the place. But yeah, creating a worship that's just beautiful and true and transcends the categories, but it's rooted.
And it's expressing.
How do we do that?
It expresses who we are.
Yeah. So that's the conversation.
As Lutheran Christians, right? Right. It's not to detach away from that. It's actually to pour deeper into that.
Right.
Yeah,
because Lutheran tradition is twofold. It's rooted in the past, but with an emphasis. Part of our past is being fresh to the present.
Right.
It's like part of our tradition.
The Reformation didn't just happen. It's like to keep living in that legacy and that spirit.
Yeah. So it's funny. So those are the conversations that Art, Dana, and I have started having at worship planning meetings. Like, how do we create that together?
So it's not that we're there. It's not right. That's not what's being said here. But the vision,
the full expression of worship at every service, right? And so for those of you who come at 8:00, for example, we haven't had organ lately.
Right.
That's not a long-term thing.
No.
I think I hope that's been communicated. I know we've said that before, but. That comes back with the fullness of worship and the organ. Yeah.
I'm going to tell it now because I brought it up to you. And we have let's answer Sarah.
Yeah, Sarah, I hope you're still here.
Yeah,
we're
I hope so too. If not, we'll make sure we let you know. Will the 8:30 and 10 service, will they be the same? The live stream and
they will. Yeah, 8:30 and 10 live stream and CLC together out in the parking lot. Right. Those will be identical.
So,
well, I mean, I take that back. No, they won't. Musically, we will prepare one set of songs.
Okay.
So in that sense, it'll be identical. 8:30 will not have communion. because it's online. 10 o'clock we'll have communion.
Right.
And so liturgically, it'll be slightly different in terms of order of service at 10.
Okay.
But musically, no, it won't be different.
Okay.
So.
Okay. I don't know what I was going to say now. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
No, I don't.
No?
Oh, no, it was like 2 weeks ago when you asked, because you said the organ. How much I love. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
It was like 2 weeks ago or a week ago, we talked about, like, we were talking about Lutheran, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, you asked me something about, like, why I came back to be a Lutheran. I told you this last week.
Yeah.
That one of the things that clicked me in my college experience when I was like, I'm done with all that stuff, or like the tradition.
I'm a non-denom.
The worship war type thing was
yeah.
a big deal, and you get caught up in that, and you're like, I like these pop songs, or I like those. It was when I was a junior in college, and it was when I was in the midst of that. I thought the organ was dead at one point.
Yeah,
I was like, it's all outdated.
Yeah.
Right? That's where I was when I was like 20 or 21 or something. And then I was invited by my pastor to go to an apologetics conference in Grand Rapids, Michigan. And it was at a church that actually resembles the style and the sanctuary. It looks very much like CLC, but with a balcony. Yeah. And it was Holy Cross, Grand Rapids. I got it now. It was an apologetics conference, and I went there with him and a buddy of mine who's a pastor now in Wisconsin, Kyle. And I remember being in that sanctuary, and it was filled. It was filled with a lot of pastors, right? Uh-huh. And people who don't care, don't have the junior high, like, I can't sing.
Yeah. I mean, I've still got it, and I'm a pastor. But I can't sing. I literally can't.
But they were all these old Midwestern Lutherans,
right?
They
can belt it.
They're belting it, and it was filled. And we sang 3 hymns, and one of them I remember, of course, was "A Mighty Fortress Is Our God," and it was to this day. Yeah, probably the most powerful, I guess, maybe worship experience I've ever had, because you couldn't hear the organ. Yeah, you drowned out the organ. Most church services I've been in, right? I love the organ and I love the hymns now. Flashback today, crescendoing all of that and like realizing, like, oh wait, I like this. And this moment was so big to me because drowning out the organ. Think about how much that takes, but when the voices are like elevated to that level, it is just, there's nothing. I'm not talking ill of contemporary music. I love contemporary music too, and I've listened to it. Yeah, but there's nothing that's ever rivaled that. Yeah, you realize that was the value in it, right? Oh yeah, it was just powerful to every level. You know, the words, even singing the words of those deep hymns in their theology, and then it was just amazing. So yeah. Cultivating that, I guess, is like the goal, where it's the instrumentation. Let our voices drown it out. Sing our praises. It's so funny. So some of you know I went to Pepperdine, and Pepperdine is associated with Churches of Christ. Yeah. One of the traditions of Churches of Christ is they allow no instrumentation at worship. My brother went to a school that was also Church of Christ. So so like literally at worship, and it was, in some ways it was beautiful. It was a cappella. Yeah, it was a cappella worship. They had a worship team that was leading it, and we would gather in our weekly convocation. It was in Firestone Fieldhouse, the big the basketball arena there. Yeah, and we'd be singing a cappella, and you'd have like 2,000 students singing a cappella. And actually, it was great. I bet it was really great. What always made us laugh, though, was one of the singers. She had a tendency to the way she'd start the song is she'd do like a beat on the microphone. I was like, instrumentation! Oh, yeah, cheating. Ha-ha! That's cheating. Anyway, we just always laughed at it. But you can't, you're using. But a cappella worship, and actually sometimes I noticed a couple of weeks ago when they did the joint song. I think we were singing "I'm Gonna See a Victory," right? And Art just dropped the piano, right? And we were singing. It was great. Oh, yeah. Yeah, and that can be really powerful. I've seen organists do that too. Yeah. Like the third verse, right? They'll just drop down and let the congregation sing. Yeah. The expectation of which is that the congregation will pick up the noise. Right. Doesn't always happen. It doesn't. No. Right. Yeah. So, that's funny. So anyway, I hope that's kind of what we're looking at is we want to create something that transcends the categories of just traditional contemporary. But rather is just beautiful worship that every generation is a part of, and side by side a part of, because we're divided enough in this world, right? Absolutely. Divided on preference, divided on age, divided on everything, and pick whatever, right? Yeah, right. So how do we
create that unity in our worship too.
Yeah.
So
well, we will. I mean, that's something that you'll probably hear more and more about as we progress and as we get closer to indoor and things start getting normal and things start settling. So
right. I know, like right now, it's like, even though I'm saying like that's the vision, and then we're just like, but like we're just trying to keep our heads above water right now as a staff.
Like do one service online, right? So it's So as we those are things that will get clarified over time and through prayer and discerning and leadership, and so I'm excited about it. I think it's a really great avenue. Pastor Joe and I would talk a lot about this. We talk a lot about how doing three things is like it's not good business practice in a sense. Like if you're trying to do something well, and it's also it's not unifying too. And so this was a conversation that Pastor Joe and I had we talked lots about at times. During my internship and such. We talked about like worship styles. We had thrown out that idea. It's like, well, what if we unified around one style? And really just and so I think this is beautiful.
The key being awesome. That like we don't want to feel like what you don't want to create is a sense of like, I lost my worship songs, right?
Yeah, that's how. Yeah.
So it should feel like we want to create something that's a gain.
Yeah.
Right. I still have this. I'm still worshiping, and now also, like say you're used to a more traditional, but like your grandson is used to like contemporary music,
right?
And now you're worshiping side by side. That's a gain, right?
It's like
huge gain. That's a huge gain. So, I think it's totally worth it for sake of family unity and church unity.
Right.
Yeah.
Break the generation.
Yeah, fuller, not lesser. That's
fuller.
The vision is fuller. Yeah, seminary. That's a guy's name, is that?
Yeah.
Okay. I was like, I've never known this. But.
He was the founder. He was a radio evangelist in Boston and started school.
Okay.
Then Billy Graham came along, and Fuller. Okay. Evangelical movement, right? So.
Yeah.
Fuller. I think Charles Fuller. I forget.
Yeah. Cool. Todd the Gassick, thanks.
Yeah.
I'm glad you're tuned in.
Yeah. Glad to Todd and Will saw each other all this morning in the water.
Did you guys go surfing?
We did. It was a 6 a.m. call.
Yeah.
Back by 9:30, 10. What? Every Thursday. It's a doozy.
Yeah.
I'm very tired. So,
man.
Cool. Hi, Toddy. Cool.
That sounds great.
Well, is there anything else that you want to discuss this week? I think we covered our survey and.
We covered our bases.
So cool.
So November 1st, if we're not back in the sanctuary, which the way the numbers are going, it's looking like we'll at least have to start outdoors.
Yeah.
So we'll have 8:30 live stream, 10 a.m. in the parking lot.
Yeah.
Just mark your calendars, and I'd love to see 10 o'clock just be like packed out there. And if we can't accommodate everyone, that's a great problem to have. So don't hesitate to come and think, we can't all fit.
Yeah, it'll be all right. I mean, we can fill in the parking lot lanes in between where people park. I don't know.
Well, if you think about it, at CLC Outdoors, I think our highest number of people there was 175. Mm-hmm. And that was like, we still left like big sections.
Yeah, there's still room.
That were empty.
Sure. We saw like this whole side over here by the education building. Like there's lots of room to be able to pull this off. So I think we'll be all right.
Yep, for sure.
Cool.
So, all right. Thanks, Steven.
All right. Yeah. Hey, pray for Pastor Garrett preaching this week, 9:30 a.m. CLC at home on our YouTube channel. For those of you who are trying to get on here on YouTube tonight, we apologize. My mistake. I was switching things up this week. So
it'll get better.
It will. Yeah.
So, all right, guys.
Cool.
Yeah. Have a good rest of the week.
Yeah.
And we'll see you this weekend.
Blessings. Bye.
All right.